Hey everyone, it is Saturday night in the lab. We're going to put together this KT Pacer feed trailer. Let's get to work. Okay, this is how the KT Pacer comes to you. It arrives at your door in this many pieces, and you will need to cut away some of the parts. And the Auger here, for example, has these little pegs here. You just cut those away with your flat-sided side cutter, and then cut all the other excess away. Just like this, nothing to it. Also, the KT Pacer comes in two versions. It has this version with the wheels down the side, and then one without these wheels. So it gives you a choice if you want to go a little more old school or give it a more modern look. After you've cut the parts away, you'll notice there's going to be little tiny, maybe you can't see it in the camera, but yeah, there you can kind of see there's a little bit of a stub there left over from where that wire was on. Now, the reason all these are wired together is to keep the part count right and to ensure that all the parts arrive with each piece. Now, to remove that little stub, I'm using a piece of 120 grit sandpaper. You can use something equivalent to, akin to, and I usually wrap that in a file or something small, and then I will just file that down. Just sand it gently. You could even use your finger and just gently sand that down like so. And if you happen to see any rough spots, you know, I love 3D printing. However, it's not a perfect process, and occasionally you'll see some of these little dimples and rough edges left over from the process. And unfortunately, you can't get away from some of that. So you just take your sandpaper, go around the sides like that, and smooth them up to whatever you like. You can do that on here. I found actually on this part right here, if you just take a knife, you can scrape any imperfections off about as easy as you can to sand it. Then we're going to go over here to the Auger and do the same. There's going to be two parts, one there and one there, and there might be some other rough areas on top of this Auger that you want to smooth up. So I take my side cutter like this, and I try and remove as much of that as I can so it's not in the way, it's clear out of the way. And then I'm going to take my sandpaper, and just like so, we're going to smooth all of that up. And to be honest with you, it doesn't take just a whole lot. The resin is somewhat soft. And then after you've got it to where you like it, just make sure you, if you don't feel any rough edges or surfaces or any nicks or anything, you're done. I feel one little surface right there. I'm going to go ahead and sand that just a wee bit more like so. And that is done. Now, on this part right here, we had 1, 2, 3 different surfaces or attachment points. Now, since this is on the bottom, you're not going to see it. You can leave it if you choose to, or you can come in again with your sandpaper, wrap that in a file like so, and then just remove those odd spots. And if you run your finger over it and it's smooth, you're done. And if not, sand until you're satisfied. All right. Now, you see a little chunk of weird resin right there in between this body and the fender. Sometimes, I mean, you can't get away from it. The printing process is good. It's not perfect. So sometimes you just got to break some of those clean or break them off. They're fairly soft and they come off easy. And you can just trim those up until you're happy with the way they look. After this, we're almost ready for paint. Now, if you see print lines, again, you can't get away from some of this just because of the nature of 3D printing. You can file those smooth if you like, or you can just leave them and go about your business. You can inspect the part for any other odd pieces of plastic that or resin that might be in the way or are not to your satisfaction. You can clean those off, trim them, sand them, and that's all there is to it. I'm going to set that off to the side and the next part of this. Now, this part right here on this auger goes inside this corresponding part on the die-cast or on the resin trailer. Now you'll notice that's pretty snug. There's a way to work around that. Get you a 332 bit and you can ream that hole out just a little bit. It is soft, so it won't take much. Now, you'll notice there's just a tiny little gap right there between. You can do one of two things. You can sand a little bit off the bottom of this part, or you can drill the hole just a little bit deeper. Like so. Either way will be acceptable, and look at that. We've now removed that little gap. Okay, to attach your auger together, same situation. We're going to test fit this, make sure it goes together well. And you'll notice there's a tiny hole right here in the auger, and then another on this upright auger. A tiny drill bit right through there. So we already have a pilot hole, which is awesome. We're just making that pilot hole a little bit bigger. Once I have the hole drilled through this, I like to go ahead and put these two parts together and put them in some sort of a vise or someplace flat where I can drill a straight hole through both parts. There. Now I have a hole drilled through both parts. It's straight and it is just about perfect. You take a straight pin and you go through both parts and there's your pin. Simply bend over this straight pin and then that will keep these two parts together. I haven't come up with just a wonderful way yet to make this so when you operate this, it holds its position very well. So if you do come up with a better way to do that, let me know so I can edit this tutorial video and help everyone else out. So for the moment, all I'm going to do is simply bend this over. I'm going to put my thumb over the backside so it doesn't want to move, and then bend that straight pin over. Now that it's bent, I come in with another side cutter and clip it short. Now that we have our trailer prepped and ready and our auger is assembled, we can use helping hands or some sort of holding device right here on this peg, and then we can do the same here and we can paint it any color we wish. I'm normally using just aluminum paint that you buy at your local discount store to paint these. It seems like that's what the real ones look like, but you're welcome to paint them any color you wish. For fenders, I'm going to add these double hump fenders like you would see on a real KT Pacer. At least I did some for the company and that's what they use on theirs. You can see that these mounting pegs right here are too long, so I'm going to trim those down. You can actually trim them pretty close if you use my fenders. And there's multiple fender options on my website. So that's how they are going to set. They set pretty darn good on those tires. Now to get those correct on the trailer, what I've been doing is I'll take a couple of random pieces of paper, and it's going to be difficult to see. I'll try and do this. Well, what I'll do is I'll move the camera so you can see better. Okay. What I do here is I will take a couple of random pieces of paper and I cut them. Like I said, it's absolutely random. So here's how I cut this one. And I just like the look of those fenders being really close to the tires. And that's why I'm using paper. And then once I have that set, then I double check the distance, make sure that they're centered, and then I will use a little bit of glue on a knife for the initial bit of glue. And I'll use a little Insta-Set on both sides to speed up the process there. And then that side is done. What I will go ahead and do too is, after I get the initial bit glued in place, I like to lean it over a little. And let me get a jar here. And then on a knife, I'll go ahead and put more glue kind of in the middle, just to give it another attachment point. Okay, the last thing we're going to do is add our auger to the trailer. It's going to plug in right there, and you are done. How well this auger holds its position will correspond to how well you get this wire, how tight that is. I haven't found a good way to get consistency out of that. If any of you watching this come up with a better solution, I would love to hear it, and I will adjust the video so it's better for everybody. And that's how you're going to assemble a KT Pacer trailer sold at Rockin' H Farm Toys. And I did go ahead and add these tail lights, and then added some detail to the mud flaps. To do that, I just use Sharpies. So a lot of you watching this, you already have some of that stuff at home. You don't have to go buy specialty tools for this project. You can use what you have right at your house. That way, it keeps it economical, and you can get what you want. That's all there is to it. I look forward to seeing what all of you make.